So I told you that after the death of Charlie Kirk, there were going to be certain measures that would take place. And one of them was censorship. Right now, there is a call on Donald Trump to implement what is called the Charlie Kirk Act that would heavily impact all forms of media for whatever the government considers to be propaganda. And they get to decide that, not us. This woman here is the one who is making the call for it. There's a petition. We'll show you the article from Caitlin Johnstone in just a second. She is the one that is asking the president to implement this act. Everyone pay attention to what is happening.
Alrighty, this message is for President Trump and his administration. If you stay to watch the video, please tag him down below, share, and repost so we can try to get this to him as quickly as possible and hope that he can do something with this. President Trump, as a supporter who voted for you 3 times, I am hoping and praying that you will revisit what Barack Obama and Joe Biden got rid of back in 2013, which is the Smith-Mundt Act, which held news corporations accountable for lying to the American people and spreading propaganda instead of truth. I think instead of bringing it back as a Smith-Mundt Act, you name it the Charlie Kirk Act, you make it a law, and you make it damn near impossible for these people to continue to lie to the American public, which has brought chaos, hatred, division, and anarchy all across this country. Fines out the ass, which will damn near bankrupt their companies should they lie to the American people ever again. They can have their opinions, that's fine. They need to state that it is their opinion and that it is not a fact.
So do you see what she is asking the president to do? She's saying that if people in media lie, they should be fined out the ass. Who's going to tell her that politicians lie? Okay. Hello? Okie dokie.
Because of their constant lies, a man lost his life over it. Because of the constant hateful rhetoric of calling him a fascist and a Nazi and a white supremacist and a bigot, the same thing that they called you, this man is dead. I think this would be a great legacy for him to have a law named after him to force journalists to finally start telling the truth and having the integrity that they have lacked for over a decade. I hope that this gets to you. I hope that you think about it and that you pass it into law. Because we are on a dangerous path right now with the constant lies and the propaganda. And that doesn't end just at news journalists. It needs to go to content creators who consistently spread lies and propaganda and half-truths across the internet. This needs to end. And people need to start being held accountable for baseless claims over absolute abysmal things. It needs to end. So please, if you have it in your heart to have the time to do this, get this in front of Congress, get this passed as a law, and start holding these news corporations, be they right, left, or center, accountable for their behavior. Thank you.
Okay. Baby girl, I don't think you realize what you're asking to happen, because it could impact you as well. So let's get into what that Charlie Kirk Act would look like. Again, you guys know I'm 100% against censorship. I'm pro free speech, even speech that I don't like. But look at this. Shout out to Caitlin Johnstone, journalist here. Caitlin does great work. If you don't follow her, make sure you do. Trump promotes a Charlie Kirk Act to establish a ministry of truth. Remember when they wanted to implement this ministry of truth under the Biden administration, right? So you see, and the truth is whatever they say is the truth. Everyone needs to be talking about this. Everyone in media needs to be talking about this. It's probably worth flagging the fact that the president of the United States is promoting the establishment of a ministry of truth to restrict speech in a suggested law called the Charlie Kirk Act. On Truth Social, he posted a viral video from TikTok on Saturday. That's the one I just showed you guys. Ellie Mae, she blamed the assassination of Republican political operative Charlie Kirk on the press, urging the president to push for legislation that would make news corporations accountable for lying to the American people and spreading propaganda instead of truth. She frames the idea as a revisitation of the Smith-Mundt Act, but then goes on to describe authoritarian measures which have nothing to do with Smith-Mundt. Let's go ahead down here. Let me close that. And she's just repeating what she said here in the video. So check this out. May has been promoting a change.org petition to enact the Charlie Kirk Act to restore media accountability, which as of this writing has tens of thousands of signatures. This amended act will hold media outlets, radio stations, educators, content creators accountable for the false narratives and erroneous information they spread deliberately or irresponsibly. The petition reads, proposing heavy fines for those deemed to be in violation. So again, this would not only impact media, this would also impact educators as well, for those of you who are in education. There's a couple of issues with this. First, the Smith-Mundt Act had nothing to do with holding news corporations accountable for lying to the American people. It was a Cold War era law which prohibited official U.S. government propaganda created by institutions like the State Department and the USAGM from being disseminated domestically. This law was controversially revised under the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 in the name of combating Al-Qaeda propaganda campaigns in the United States. Returning Smith-Mundt to its original iteration would be a fine idea. American right-wingers tend to make a much bigger deal about the changes made under the Obama administration than is actually warranted. Anyone who remembers the lead up to the Iraq invasion knows the US government had no trouble getting immensely consequential propaganda circulating throughout the American press prior to 2013. But anything that inhibits the US government's ability to disseminate propaganda to Americans might be somewhat helpful and couldn't hurt. But that isn't what this Charlie Kirk Act push is advocating. Smith-Mundt placed restrictions on what the U.S. government is allowed to do with regard to propaganda, while the proposed Charlie Kirk Act would give the U.S. government sweeping new powers to decide what does and does not constitute propaganda and untruth and administer penalties accordingly. Pause right there. They would get the chance to decide what they consider is true and untrue, which basically means any information that they don't like or they don't agree with, they can say that this is false information. That is what is so incredibly dangerous about this act, right? And it's done using Charlie Kirk's name. But this is one of those times where, again, you need to read into things and not just focus on the name of the act or the name of a bill or the name of said legislation. You really have to read into it. It goes on to say here, one limits the U.S. government's ability to manipulate public information, while the other explicitly expands it. Nobody anywhere is claiming that propaganda generated by the U.S. State Department or USAGM projects like the voice of America got Charlie Kirk assassinated by calling him a Nazi. They're talking about creating a new law to stomp out the free speech of media outlets, radio stations, educators, and content creators. By the way, this was trending at that time. The other issue is, of course, that giving the government the authority to penalize propaganda and lies means giving the government the authority to determine what constitutes propaganda and lies. They could decide it's a lie to say that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, for example, or it's propaganda to say the U.S. shouldn't be waging a proxy war in Ukraine. Does everybody see where this could lead? See? Yeah. Continuing on here, the Charlie Kirk Act is being pushed in the name of fighting propaganda, but it would actually be giving the U.S. government unprecedented authority over what Americans are permitted to say on any platform. And that would also include social media, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're pro free speech, you should not be in favor of this Charlie Kirk Act. And shame on them for trying to use, you know what I'm saying? It's like they're using his death and using his name to make you think this is something that it's not, because this can impact everybody. It doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. If you say something, let's be clear. We talk about the war in Ukraine, right? There are people on the right that are against the war in Ukraine. There are people on the left that are against the war in Ukraine. There are people on the right and the left that are against the genocide in Gaza. So, and at the end of the day, yes, I do independent media, but this isn't just about me. Because typically with these types of things, they start in one area and then they spread. So free speech is under attack. And I've been warning people about this for a long time. Long time. This could, of course, turn out to be nothing and fizzle right away. But when the president of the United States starts pushing for the establishment of Ministry of Truth to determine what Americans are allowed to say, I think that's worth drawing attention to. Guys, it's what I mean again about under pressure, right? Like some of these actions, it's insane. It's insane. And I've never seen the US government respond this way to any other death in this country that has happened during my lifetime. I've never seen it. Never. Now, I wasn't alive when MLK died, so I don't know what happened, what the government did then, if they implemented any measures. I don't know. I wasn't alive when JFK died. I wasn't alive when, Fred Hampton, I wasn't here. If you were, let me know. Call me. But I have never seen this before. The measures that are being taken, it is just through the roof. And there's more. I'm seeing this on both sides as well. When you look at the politician, again, shout out to Caitlin Johnstone, push for more internet censorship is coming. Look at this. Here is Pete Buttigieg. Now, this is on the Democrat side. Pete Buttigieg says there is not a consistent pattern of left versus right among shooters, but there is a pattern where we see so many of these people are men, usually young men, who seem to spend more and more of their time in dark and twisted corners of the internet. Dark and twisted. Next thing you know, they'll be calling for a shutdown of Discord. Not realizing, or maybe they do realize, but a lot of the people on Discord are gamers. They're talking about the real world, what are they, RPGs, real player game, whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. They're over there talking about World of Warcraft or Red Road. What's the guy that shoots the gun? Red Dead, Red Road. I forget. Some of you know what I'm talking about if you play video games. But they're over there talking about that thing. They're over there talking about Final Fantasy, those type of things. Right? Someone is telling me what it is. Red Dead Redemption. Thank you. They want to take that down. I just saw recently there seems to be a campaign against Hassan Piker where they are calling for Twitch to remove Hassan Piker. And Hassan Piker is kind of mild in some way, shape, or form. Now, I don't agree with some of the things that Hassan Piker said. I may not agree with. I don't agree with calling for the death of people. I don't agree with that. But at the same time, I don't feel that people should be deplatformed for saying these things, because I am pro free speech. And it's just crazy. And I thought about this and I saw this war online of people saying, get rid of Hassan Piker, get his ass off of Twitter. And I was like, this is what we're doing now? Here's the other one. Like I said, check this one out. Utah Governor Cox. Clearly, there was a lot of gaming going on. Friends have confirmed that deep, dark internet. Notice how they all have the same talking points? Deep, dark. Ooh. Reddit and these other dark places of the internet where the person was going deep. You saw that on the casings. Man, I don't know what the F that shit's about. But memification, that's the word my aide told me I should use. Anyways, V deep, V dark. Notice to the vocabulary that they are using, right? Deep, dark. These words have a tendency to incite negative emotion. So that's intentional, right? There's always deepity, deep, deep, dark. Like I said, if you go on the Discord, a lot of it's like gamers and people talking about, oh, what cheat code did you use? Or, oh, no. Talking about video games. This is not 1998. This is not 1999. This is not the 90s anymore, where Congress comes in and says, let's get rid of these video games because they're making people dangerous. The same video games that exist in other Western countries, by the way, which have a lower crime rate than we do in the United States, they have less mass shootings than we do. Seems like that's not the problem. Some of you may be a little too young to remember and you may not know, but there was a time when this video game came out and it was called Mortal Kombat. It's still around. Congress rallied against Mortal Kombat. They didn't seem too fond of the characters saying, get over here and finish him. Fatality. They were bothered, shaking in their boots. But they have no problems watching movies of war. They have no problem bombing kids abroad. They have no problem starving children abroad. But oh no, not Sub-Zero. This is where I feel like we're headed back to, right? You have Nick Fuentes here, who everybody's coming down his back as of recently. Hassan Piker should be banned on Twitch and then deported back to Turkey. And before people on our side cry about hypocrisy, remember that you can't say the word simp or retard on the platform, but you can openly incite murder against conservatives. Enough is enough. Here comes Nick Fuentes, not the guy who said, no, don't shut down the speech. The pressure, everybody has lost their shit. And you see it here with Donald Trump. Listen to what he says here about Code Pink.
And a woman, in many cases, women, you can see they're professional agitators. I had one the other night. I had 4 the other night, all in one group, total phonies. I started to scream when I got into a restaurant, oh, you know, something with Palestine. And I said, well, I'm doing a great job for peace in the Middle East. I should get lots of awards for that, right? With the Abraham Accords and everything else. But a woman just stood up and started screaming. And she got booed out of the place, too. There were a lot of people in the restaurant. I went there to show how safe, and it was safe. I mean, the woman is just a mouthpiece. All she was a paid agitator. And you have a lot of them. And I've asked Pam to look into that in terms of RICO, bringing RICO cases against the criminal RICO, because they should be put in jail. What they're doing to this country is really subversive. Yeah.
You see what I mean about the crackdowns and the censorship? So he's talking about Code Pink because they protested against him when he was at a restaurant. Hey, Trump, guess what? They did the same thing to Joe Biden about Gaza. They're not going to treat you any differently because you're continuing the genocide. He's calling for them to be jailed. You see where we're headed? This is very concerning to me. Very concerning. You have Pam Bondi's out there now. Pam Bondi is now saying that they are going to heavily go after people who use hate speech. Watch this.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
So let me get this straight, folks. Again, so you will heavily target people and go after people for speech, but you won't go after Jeffrey Epstein's friends for trafficking underage girls. Do I understand this correctly? The focus is more so now on speech instead of going after sex traffickers. We live in a cartoon. We're going to come after you. We're coming. Here we go. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So you see what's happening? Again, I have never seen them do this for any other person that has been killed in the United States during my lifetime. I have never seen this level of action before. And it's almost as if there seems to be even more immense pressure from Israel. I do think that a lot of this pressure is coming from Israel. They still want people to get on board with them. They are not happy with the numbers that show the majority of Americans are not in favor of giving money to Israel and don't support a genocide in Gaza. So let's go ahead and come after the speech. They can't talk. Let's do. And you know what? This is a message here to the Democratic Party. The people like Hakeem Jeffries, who also simps for AIPAC, he can't really do too much because he part of the same club too. This is a message for people like Cory Booker, who sold his soul a long time ago. This is a message for people like Wesley Bell, who took Cori Bush's seat so he could be a puppet too. This is a message for the Black Congressional Congress caucus, who basically pretend like they do something for Black people, but they don't. They serve Israel first too. This is why you lost in 2024. Because the Democratic Party does not fight back. The Democratic Party was also complicit in genocide. The Democratic Party as a party is not trying to stop any of this. They just chilling, collecting their checks, making things, their future great so that they can continue to go on and maybe run for the next big position. The Democratic Party is just cowering back. Now, there was some momentum that was happening after Kamala lost and Trump won. But as I warned you back then, that wouldn't last long. That has already died off. And some of them, a lot of them, can't really say too much because they're bought by the same donors. How are you going to tell Trump to stop doing something that you're doing? So it goes back to the donors. They don't trust us as a people. I am very, very concerned about that Charlie Kirk Act. And I think that we got to keep our eye out for that one. I hope that does not become law. But honestly, when we look at things, like crazier things have happened, but they're trying to silence us. They're trying to silence me, you, all of us. That doesn't make this the land of the free. That don't make this the land of the brave, a home of the brave. They're trying to keep us quiet, not to protect them, but to protect the state of Israel. Make it make sense. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.